How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Brian and Ethan's Biathlon podcast. We're back after a short break. Ethan, you ready to be back?
I definitely am.
All right, sorry everybody, we were gone last week. Well, both Ethan and I love biathlon and we love doing this podcast. Ethan is actually still currently racing and I am still currently coaching. So we were both away last weekend, actually, believe it or not, for race trips. So we couldn't record last week, which is too bad because there was some excitement in Oberhof. But hey, you know what? Life moves on. Ethan, how'd your race go last weekend?
It was all right. It was my first races of the season, so they, always a little rough and a little interesting, but definitely some things to take away from it and learn. So it was pretty good. How was your weekend?
It was great. Yeah, my team made me proud. They had some good results, and I think, yeah, like you said, it's the first race of the season, and quite frankly, it could be some of the only races of the season for some of our athletes. So it was good to be able to put the bib on and toe the start line. So yeah, it was exciting. All right, should we dive into some biathlon here?
Let's do it.
All right, first shot. I got to give this one out just to the biathlon world in general. No one specific athlete, no feel good story. Just this week in Antholz, biathlon sort of came alive a little bit. I mean, there wasn't that one team that was just crushing everyone like we've seen in the past. It started in Kontiolahti with the French, then it went to Norway as we moved to Hochfilzen. But this week, there was just the field was just open. I just thought overall it was just a great weekend for racing.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, even in like Oberhof there towards the end, we saw things start to get shaken up and start getting pretty spicy out there. And then Antholz, I feel like Antholz always throws a curveball at the athletes with the altitude and the tough race courses. And I think it kind of hits some of the athletes a little unexpectedly, and then some of them are pretty ready to throw down up there at altitude, and then whatever happens, I guess.
And I think also the other thing too is I think a lot of people are probably training for world champs. They're trying to peak at world champs. And I think we're starting to see some of those training plans come to fruition as we move into world championships. Not saying that the Norwegians or the French, aren't peaking for world champs, but if their training plan was a little bit more season-long focused, that's why we've seen a lot of season-long domination. But for some of these other athletes that are trying to go right for world champs, the time's coming, and we're starting to see a little bit of that. So, yeah, I mean, overall, just an awesome week for biathlon.
And there's a week break between now and world champs, so that'll give some of the teams a little bit of time. Some of the teams that haven't quite felt like they've had the results they've been looking for, give them some time to hopefully figure something out and come to world champs ready to rock and roll.
Absolutely. All right, moving on. Next shot. I don't want to spend too much time on this because we are a biathlon podcast, and there have been other things in the past that have happened in the ski world that I've decided to overlook because we're a biathlon podcast. But I do want to take a moment to discuss the Bolsunov versus the Maki incident. Did you see that one this weekend?
I did. Yes, I did.
Yeah, so for those who aren't familiar, I would strongly recommend going and looking it up. It's all over the internet. But Bolsunov, who is the current FIS, or cross-country skiing world leader, he won the Tour de Ski this year. He had a demonstration of extremely poor sportsmanship this weekend when Maki, who is a Finnish athlete, in the final straightaway of the men's 4x7.5K relay, on the final turn, the Finn swung it wide. Bolsunov got caught behind him trying to make a pass, and once Bolsunov realized that he wasn't going to be able to actually make the move because of Maki's decision to swing it wide, he then decided to whip the Finnish athlete with his pole, breaking his pole in the process. And then as they crossed the finish line, he took out his anger again on the Finn by just plowing right into him in the finish gate. And it's kind of disgusting to watch, in my opinion. It's really, really poor poor demonstration of sportsmanship. There's nothing on the ski track that should result in that level of outburst from Bolsunov.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's been frustrating to read some of the comments because I've read comments on Facebook, on other social media, on even on the comments on some news articles. People are either saying, completely outrageous by Bolsunov, unacceptable, which it's true, or they're just saying they're both cheaters, which is completely like stupid because what Maki did was completely legal. If you go back and read the rules, he has to be in a lane in the final 100 meters, and you can't switch lanes in those final 100 meters except to pass. So when this incident happened, he wasn't in a lane yet. He was approaching a lane and coming around a turn, but it was Bolshunov's duty to either go faster than him enough to pass him on the outside like he was trying to do, or be strategic, stay behind him until they got to the straightaway, and then whatever lane the Finn chose, he should have just chose a different lane and out sprinted him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just I don't think there's any place for this in skiing. What do you think?
I mean, I completely agree. Like, the Finn had every right to choose whatever lane he wanted, whatever line he wanted around that last corner coming into the finish. And if Bolshunov didn't like his decision, then that doesn't give him a right to do what he did. Like, he should have just kind of backed off a little bit and then, like you said, like waited and then choose whatever lane the Finn didn't go in, or stay behind him around the corner and then like hop into whichever one he didn't choose when they came in. But like, there's no place in skiing for this. Like, completely unacceptable. Unless you're good.
I think like Bolshunov needs to receive like a suspension or something for this, because that no competitor should feel like their actions, their legal actions in a ski race should result in them being battered by another athlete. Like they shouldn't fear for their safety and their well-being because their actions in a ski race might result in that. Like, this isn't hockey. This isn't a sport where, they allow you to take it out on each other, for a couple of minutes until you guys go to the ground. Like, if FIS wants to become that sport, then, let's talk about that. That'll change skiing for sure. But, no, I just feel like there's no place for this, and I might get some heat for this because I got some heat last week for reminding everyone that Russia doped during the Olympics. But no, that like Russia or Bolshunov specifically needs to be he needs to be punished for this. He needs to be suspended for a weekend or even the rest of the tour. My only fear is that because he's currently the World Cup leader, FIS is going to drop the ball on this, and they're going to look at ad revenue over, the integrity of their sport, and they're not going to do anything about it, which kind of sucks because I mean they've shown a history of doing this in the past with the whole doping scandal, and I'm not just talking about Russia, I'm talking about Norway too. Like there's a whole separate issue there where FIS dropped the ball on condemning Norway and their doping issues, but yeah, it's kind of sucks. And like the one thing that I wish kind of happened, because obviously FIS is not going to stand up for the athletes in this situation. Like if I was one of Finland's teammates, one of that guy's teammates, I would have been right in Bolshunov's face after that happened. And like, you gotta, if the governing body, if the organizing body is not going to do anything about it, you got to take matters into your own hand and basically tell Bolshunov yourself, like, you're not going to stand for this. And like, even if I wasn't his teammate, even if I was one of the other U.S. athletes there, like I'm not saying I could take Bolshunov in a fight, but someone's got to like get up in his face and tell him that that's not acceptable, because right now he's just walking around, like the big man on campus pushing people over, and there's no consequences for his actions. Like, yeah, okay, his team got disqualified, like big whoop. Like that's one weekend in one World Cup stage. It doesn't mean anything, where there was literally 5 teams and a couple B teams. It's like, who cares? But yeah, if he doesn't get suspended or something like that, then he's just going to walk around feeling like he can do this again. So it's really frustrating.
I think it'll be interesting to see if any, like you said, if any of the other teams or individuals come out within this week to speak out about it and say something once FIS has made their decision of what to do in terms of the issue. And I also can't help but think like this doesn't really happen in biathlon all that much. It feels like we've had moments where like someone cuts someone off going into the finish where they had the right of way and the person disagrees, but it's kind of like oh, okay, like I went wrong here, like I'll just move on, but it doesn't quite seem
The closest
that.
thing I can think is a couple years ago, Farkad walked off the podium when he was on the podium with the Russians, and that was a show that was a show that he didn't approve of WADA and the IOC's decision to, not sanction Russia after their doping scandal in Sochi. And I know Anton Shipulin came out very publicly that he thought what Fourcade did was a disgrace, but there was a lot of people who agreed with Fourcade on his action as well, and thought that he was kind of standing up for the integrity of the sport and the integrity of fair play. And I think that's what needs to happen here is yeah, well, I'll be interested to see what ends up happening in the long run. But currently, as of this morning, and today's Tuesday, January. Sorry, I don't know why I said December. Today's January 26th. As of this morning, Bolsunov and the CEO or the head of the Russian Ski Federation issued an apology. They did, issue both a public statement of apology and a private letter to the to the Finnish organization. But apparently, and I was reading up on Russia Today, which is it's a very popular news source in Russia. Apparently, the Finnish police have confirmed that 2 criminal reports were filed against Bolsunov after the incident, and they have opened a preliminary investigation into the matter, which is kind of I guess it seems a little extreme, but I'm good, because I mean, if he did this in line for the subway, he would be arrested. Just because this happens in sport, unless the rules specifically state, like hockey, that you can drop the gloves and go at it. If this happened in line for the subway or in line for a sandwich or something like that, he would be arrested. So I think he should face the law, and nothing will probably come of this. But I think it's just a completely egregious show of frustration, and there's no need for it in our sport. All right, let's move on to a happier note. Mass start women from Antholz. What a race, huh?
That was pretty exciting to watch.
5 women leave the range together on their last leg, and this is exactly what we opened with. This is what I'm talking about. Biathlon's coming alive. 5 women, all from different nation, leaving the range together, fighting for number one. That's what it is. And unfortunately, there were no there were no Norwegians in this fight, which would have made it even funner, I guess. That's a word. But yeah, we have Julia Simon, Hannah Oeberg, Theresa Hauser, Franziska Preuss, and Marketa Davidova, all leaving the range after the final shooting, fighting for the win. Of those 5 names, obviously I know you know who won, but of those 5 names, Oeberg has to be your winner. She's currently ranked in the top 3 overall. Really good athlete, Olympic champion. You have to have your money on her. But then you have Hauser, who's really coming alive, and you have Simone, who is going to be a great mass start racer. She's the current leader in the mass starts. She won the mass start back in Oberhof. So yeah, that was just a great fight.
Yeah, I mean, this is why we watch biathlon, for these situations, these race scenarios. And this is in training, this is what these athletes are simulating in their head every single day, every single shot, to hopefully be the one who comes out on top. And like you said, my money probably was not on Julia Simon to win that last loop, because it's considering she's had two more misses than any of the other women who were out there in that last 5. But she skied the last loop incredibly well, and I think she knew the strengths and weaknesses of the other athletes that were also out there with her, and kind of just put the hammer down and went for it.
Yeah. No, I definitely didn't. I definitely didn't have Simone either. But she's one person that we haven't really talked about this year. But she's sort of
Mm-hmm.
coming alive. In her recent races, she's been either on the podium or very close to the podium. She's won both mass starts of the year, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see, where she ends up at the end of the year if she can keep this momentum going.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, compared to seasons in the past, her hit rate is pretty much the same as it always has been. Her skiing speed is up compared to last year. Her shooting times are down compared to last year. So, the, I mean, everything's going in the right direction for her. I just feel like we haven't seen too much from her so far. Um, but yeah, I mean, she's another one. I personally, from the French team, I really like Justine Brazat. I feel like she has really good technique. She's very powerful, good skier, very confident on the range. But Simon just keeps jumping in there and having really good results. So I think she's going to be one to look or one to watch at World Champs.
Mm-hmm. I think especially in the head-to-head races where she can really like throw down on the ski tracks with the fastest women out there. I think those will be her best chances because her hit rate isn't super duper high, so I'm not sure she'll kind of be able to keep it together in the sprint or the individual at World Champs. But I think definitely keep your eye on her in the mass start and pursuit. Hopefully, she makes the pursuit for her to do something crazy in those races.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the overall right now for the women's mass start, and she currently has 156 points for winning two mass starts on the season. I guess Roeiseland won the first one back in Kontiolahti. I forgot about that. It's been so long ago. But so we currently have two mass starts left, one at World Champs, and then the final one in Oslo. And she has about a 24 point lead over Roeiseland. And remember, for winning, you get 60 points. Um, second place is 54 points. Do you think she has what it takes to stay far enough ahead to win the Crystal Globe at the end of the year for the mass starts?
Part of me wants to say yes, but part of me is a little unsure just because she can be a little wild on the range sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think obviously she's beaten Roisland the past two mass starts, but I think I would have to give the edge to Roisland just because I have more confidence in her on the range, and the past few years kind of she's absolutely crushed it at World Champs, to kind of say the least. The past few years, nothing that can stop her from doing that again this year. So I think I'd probably have to put my money and stand behind Roisland to win the Mass Start Globe.
Yeah, and I mean, kind of like to prove what you said, in the individual, she had 7 misses and came in 62nd. In the sprint at Oberhof, she had 5 misses, came in 59th, almost didn't make the pursuit.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, the sprint the week before, she had 2 misses and came in 4th. So, but then she backed that up with 6 misses in the pursuit. So yeah, I think you're right. She can fluctuate a little bit. Maybe the 2 mass starts that she has won this year were her, just kind of getting a little bit lucky, because she did have 3 misses in both of those mass starts and ended up winning both races. And I guess, even in her winning performances, she hasn't shown that she's like this incredibly fit, uh, you know, dominant athlete with, going clean and crushing everyone on the ski track. So, yeah, I almost feel like there's a there's a slight bit of luck to her wins so far. Um, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. And I do think we have to give the edge to Roisland in the mass start, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, there's a lot that can happen between now and then. She does have a pretty sizable lead, but I mean, she only got 36 points in the first mass start. So if she does that again in World Champs and Roisland wins, boom, the lead's already gone. So I also want to talk just really quickly about Lisa Theresa Hauser. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, she's going on her 5th podium in 6 days, and the only reason she didn't podium in that one race was because she fell and broke her rifle on the last lap and ended up coming in 12th. But
Mm-hmm.
she is on this incredible climb right now. I love the progression chart on biathlonworld.com where you can see, the week to week rankings of everyone and how people are moving around. It's kind of hard to see because they only highlight the top 3, but uh, if you highlight Lisa Theresa Hauser's name and you just look at her climb in, when we first, before she made her first podium, which again was her first career podium, before she made that first podium, she was in 11th place. And now 3 weekends of racing later, she's now in 5th place, right behind Doro. And I think it's still going to be a little bit of a climb if she wants to break into that top 3 to fight for the overall. But
Yeah.
there's a really strong chance that she could be, by herself in 4th place
Mhm.
after the World Championships. What do you think? Is she going to keep the momentum going, or does she peak too early?
I It's tough to say because we haven't really seen her do this and go through this before. But I'd like to think that she would. I mean, there's no reason for her kind of not to. Like her results have been pretty consistently pretty good for throughout the season, but then like really been like swinging for the fences and making contact these past few weeks, and like to win the individual too. That was a really fun race to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I think her confidence has to be through the roof right now, and I think the confidence and support she has around her will also be at that same level of hers. And I think she'd be able to do it for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, if she didn't fall in that mass start, which it's kind of weird, like watching the replay, she just kind of, it seemed like she was just kind of tired and just like lost her footing for a second and just went down. But if she didn't fall and ended up finishing on the podium, even in 3rd,
Yeah.
like she would be ahead of Doro right now because she's only 19 points back.
Mhm.
And by coming in 12th, she lost some major points. That's like 10 places back from where she would have been. So, yeah, I mean, again, we haven't seen this from her in the past. She's always been that, pretty consistent, like 5th place to 25th place kind of person.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, now she's punching at the podium, and yeah, we'll see if she can ride it out. I mean, I'm definitely going to be looking for her because I think it's great getting more people in the mix, in the fight. I think it's great for biathlon, and I think she's someone that a lot of people really like. She seems like a really sweet person. Um,
Mhm.
you know, doesn't she's very humble about her podiums these last couple of weeks whenever she's in the post race press conference. So I think, yeah,
Mhm.
she's one of those people on the World Cup that I think all the other athletes are rooting for as well. And when
Mhm.
she's doing well, I think no one can help but be happy for her. So um, yeah, I'm definitely rooting for her. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the men's mass start, and then yeah, men's mass start. Jakov Fak finally gets a podium this year, and he cracks me up because I always feel like he's, again, one of those dudes that was like good but just never made it. But then when you
Mhm.
look at his career, he has 25 podiums in his career, and he has even a couple wins. I think like 5 or 6 wins to his name, um,
Mhm.
which I just feel like I maybe that was back before I was watching biathlon because I can't remember in my recent memory a time that he has won. Yeah, he has 8 wins in his career. His most recent win coming in the 2015 season. So that was quite a while ago. Um, but I mean, he's definitely a veteran of the league, and he has big goals for this upcoming World Championships at home. Do you think this is a little glimpse into how he's feeling going into World Champs, or is this just going to give him false hope going into next week?
I think it is a kind of a glimpse of what what he's capable of doing right now. Because I know when they announced that world champs would be at home in Pokljuka for him, they did an interview with him, asking him like what his goals and ambitions were and how his training has shifted in terms of having success at home at Pokljuka. And I think he mentioned that he really like this was his main focus, like World Cup wins overall, Crystal Globes, like whatever. His main focus was performing at World Champs at home. And obviously, it thinks that they can't have a crowd there supporting him, because I know that they would absolutely go crazy if he's doing well in a race. I think he's really going to have a great World Champs. And I think this was kind of a little glimmer of hope for his fans that he can definitely contend with the big dogs out there.
Yeah, and I think in general, I feel like we see him at the beginning of the year. Like he always comes into the season super hot, and he'll be like 4 or 5, 6 in the first couple of World Cups, and then he'll sort of start fading, and then by the end, like by the middle, like that chunk of the season, he's always finishing in like the 10s to 20s. But I think he does know how to pull it off for a big race, because looking at his season career or his top stats, I mean, his two of his 8 wins came at World Championships. He has a silver medal from the Olympics in 2018, so the most recent Olympics, and then he also has a bronze from World Championships as well. So, I mean, it seems like he knows how to pull it out, and he has a bronze from the Winter Olympics as well. So, it seems like he knows how to he knows how to perform at a big event, and maybe it might just be a one-off. It's not going to be like a Roeiseland where she just last year dominated World Championships. But he knows that the big event is coming, and for him, World Champs being at home, there's probably got to be as much emphasis on this as an Olympics for him, because this is, we've seen in the past, especially from like the Czech Republic with Gabi Sukalova, like if he can perform well at home, unfortunately, there won't be any fans there, but if he can perform well at home, that's going to do huge things for biathlon in his country, and hopefully, grow the Slovenian biathlon just popularity. So, I'm sure that he realizes that he's an ambassador to the sport, and if he can do well at the home World Champs, it's gonna do big things for his sport and his country. So, I'm sure he's probably looking at this like an Olympics. All right, let's move on to our final shot here. Women's overall, 9 points. We are now halfway through the season, a little bit more than halfway through the season. 9 points separate 3 athletes. 3 athletes. We have Roeiseland and Eckhoff from Norway, Oeberg from Sweden, Hannah Oeberg. 9 points after a good performance from Oeberg this last weekend, and pretty dismal performances, honestly, from Eckhoff and Roeiseland. This just keeps getting more and more exciting every week. Like, I remember last time we chatted, it was all about how Eckhoff was just climbing her way back into the overall, and it was going to be Eckhoff versus Roeiseland. And now I'm like, it's anyone's game. It's really anyone's game.
Yeah, I think the table has kind of turned towards Hannah Oeberg to kind of stick with it through like using this week as confidence booster and major motivation to to say to herself, I can do this again. Because she came out on fire in Kontiolahti, ready to just destroy everyone in her sight. Whereas she kind of lost that a little bit throughout the season. But I think having this week in Antholz to really solidify her approach to the races, I think she'll be able to really throw down at World Champs. And I think the big question is, will Eckhoff and Roeiseland be able to keep up?
Yeah, I still don't see that like dominating form that we saw in Kontiolahti. Like, I mean, she obviously got beat by Simone in the mass start. Yeah, I don't see, unfortunately right now, I'm just not seeing that like kick, like if it came down to anyone versus Eckhoff on a 1 lap race to the finish, I got to put my money on Eckhoff every time. And I feel the same way with Roeiseland. And that's why that one time where they left the range together was so exciting. But I don't feel that confidence with Oeberg right now.
Mm-hmm. And who knows, maybe Vera can pull some good races out too and throw her name up in the contention a little bit more. And hopefully she can do well. But I think at this point, it's kind of a 3-horse race for the overall. I think world champs will definitely be the telling tale, and it'd be super exciting and super crazy if they're all still really close after world champs. But I have a feeling that one of them is going to pull clear a little bit throughout world champs.
Yeah, no, I don't. Unfortunately, I don't see Doro. Like, maybe Doro has some good races at world champs, but unfortunately, I just don't see her being able to claw her way back to fight for those top 3 spots.
Yeah.
I think she's just a little too far out of it. And yeah, everyone in front of her is just too strong. Like, there would need to be a major collapse of someone in the top 3 to fall back and lose one of those top 3 spots. But who knows, I mean, we talked a lot about how Eckhoff is always, she's kind of on a high right now with her shooting percentage. If she goes back to her normal ways, she'll be out of the top 10 quickly, because there's a lot of women up there fighting, especially this last weekend. A lot of people fighting. So, yeah, who knows? All right, let's finish it out. Spare round. Who is your wild card, out of nowhere athlete for world championships? I'm not saying they have to dominate world champs, but in one race, this person's going to come out of nowhere and they're going to win. Who's it going to be?
Oh man, this is tough. This is really hard. I think Sebastian Samuelsson will come back and throw down in either the pursuit or the mass start and really give Johannes and whoever else is up there a really good run for their money. And I think he'll be able to come out on top.
That's a good one. I did think about him. I don't really consider him out of nowhere, considering he's like 3rd or 4th overall. But no, I do think that, yeah, he will have a good result, because we haven't seen much from him since Kontiolahti. But I'm going to actually go with Markéta Davidová from the Czech Republic, because I feel like we're starting to see really good things from her. Her ski speed was a little off in the mass start when she left the range with the other girls, and she kind of got dropped a little bit. But I think we're starting to see some really good things from her in recent races, and I think everything's just going to go her way on one of these days. So,
yeah. Time will tell.
All right. Thank you for listening, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We're going to take a break next week because there's no racing, but we will be back for World Championships. Please hit the like button if you like this. Hit the subscribe button so you're staying up to date with everything that we are putting out there. And yeah, we'll see you soon.